Today we have Brunello Rosa joining us to talk about his book, Smart Money: How Digital Currencies Will Win the New Cold War and Why the West Needs to Act Now. Financial Times says it's the best economic book of 2024. I'll put a link to, do you just want a link to your website in the description? Or do you have a special place you want it to go, people to go?
Oh, that's fine. The website
Okay.
is fine. If you want directly to the Amazon link for the book.
Okay. Amazon link as well. All right. I guess let's start off with why you wrote the book.
Yeah, so I wrote a book because I thought that this topic was totally unknown to the general public, and I would say even policymakers. So there was really lack of knowledge and understanding of something that, in my view, is absolutely critical. And it's not just the technological aspect of it, which is complicated enough and unknown enough, which is the one of digital currencies, but it's the geopolitics of it, the geopolitical implication of digital currencies. That is a subject that is even less known and actually is also very tough to have the relevant people to talk about because central bankers don't want to talk about it. It's way too political, way too contentious. This is not something that they are happy to discuss. So they are actually quite happy if somebody else does it for
Right on.
them. All right. And so I had the pleasure of presenting in some central bank exactly because they welcome an external speaker to discuss it.
Uh, I guess what are some of the main messages that you would want to portray from the book for people to be interested enough to go purchase it for it from you?
Absolutely. So the interesting point is uh, there's a process of de-dollarization, so a reduced use of the dollar for international transactions. Now the statistics are mixed about that also because meanwhile the euro is being less used than before for a variety of reasons. So this process of de-dollarization is bumpy. But if you look at the trajectory, the trend is there. It's been there for now a couple of decades. It's not a collapse; it's a decline. But this is because there's the rising use of other currencies alternative to the dollar, and this is a reflection of the reduced influence of the U.S. over the global economy and the rise of China and its allies. So, what we need to understand is that the world is polarizing in all sorts of aspects, in terms of trade, in terms of spheres of influence, in terms of internet. People even talk about split internet, so the division of internet in two parts. And so, of course, is also reflected in a monetary system. Eventually, what China probably wants is having the yuan and its derivations. We can discuss what I mean by that. To be dominant in their own parts of the world, the part that they consider to be their sphere of influence. So Southeast Asia, for sure, Asia in general, but also Africa, Latin America, and so on. And the dollar will remain only in those areas where is already dominant and is very hard to replace it. And for sure, is North America, is Europe, and so on. So, uh, you need to figure out that there could be an equilibrium, so to speak, in a decade or so, a world that looks pretty different from now, with the dollar on the one side, and the digital yuan and other currencies on the other side.
Do you think the BRICS is going to be a major player in that? Obviously, I heard South Africa and India are saying that they are not trying to ruin the dollar. They just want to trade with their own currencies with their friends, basically.
Yeah, so there's a, first of all, there's a recurrent theme about the BRICS currency or whether the BRICS can issue their own currency. And as a former central banker, I kind of know that this notion makes little sense uh, in the current format because the currency needs a central bank. Where would that central bank be? In Moscow, in Beijing, in Brasilia? So, it's not that simple. And also, the convergence that would be needed among those currencies and sorry, countries in terms of economic performance, it's huge and virtually impossible to achieve. So, in the current terms, it makes no sense. But in the future sense, the one that we discuss in the book, whereby China built what we call the rails, the payment system of the future, the infrastructure that on which all payment system will run in the future, then it's not just the digital yuan that will run, but also other currencies or baskets of currencies. So this is when the BRICS currency will reemerge, and exactly because this is a credible and serious threat, that Donald Trump himself recently said, if you BRICS countries try to move away from the dollar to use your own currency or back another currency for your own trade, guess what? You're going to have 100% tariffs. So it means, it's a sign of weakness. It means he's scared. It means that the threat is credible, not today, but maybe in 2 or 3 years. So, I would say that the movement is definitely there for sure. The democracy, so to speak, so far. So Brazil, South Africa reassured the U.S. that they do not intend to drop the dollar, while China and Russia might be on the other side. But economically speaking, the movement is already there.
Uh, I know in your book you touched on how China uses it, or people, even libertarians here in America might view it as a control method to monitor your spending, shut you off, stuff like that. Do you think it being used as political devices is a real possibility, though, even if someone like America is in control?
Okay, so everything that is electronic, by its own definition, entails an element of control. We need to be aware of that. Some of the most libertarians put their stuff on Facebook. So I really want to know what they are scared of. Because by putting your stuff on Facebook, by using your phone, by doing a Google search, by using everyday technology, you're leaving traces everywhere. You're accepting cookies from everybody. You're accepting that somebody is controlling your data, whether it's Apple, whether it's Huawei, whether it's Samsung, whether it's computer makers, whether there are the various platforms, social media. We voluntarily put our pictures on social media. So, is it really the fact that the central bank could potentially, and not that is in their interest, but could potentially trace back your illicit transaction that scares you off? Honestly, that makes no sense. Okay. Now, in China, is a different story. For China, it is an element of making sure that the government continues to control all financial transactions. Again, in theory, because in practice, um, here we are talking about billions of transactions per day. And no government, not even the most authoritarian government, has the interest or even the ability to control all those transactions. Of course, the story is that if I need to trace back, if I need to track somebody, and so on, it's easier than with cash. That's for sure. Cash is a virtually not traceable mechanism and technology. But every time that we start using something that is electronic, it doesn't need to be digital. It's enough to have a credit card. Okay, then you're traceable. And and somebody can store this information and use against you if they want to, right? There's only one serious objection by the libertarians, and it's the following. Um, in theory, again, here we are talking about theory. In theory, the government can shut you off, so can remotely decide that a specific and particular individual may not have access to his own whatever means of payments. Okay, something that cannot be done with cash, because if an individual gets the hold of some cash, then he can use it. Nobody can stop it from doing that. Okay, so that's the only real difference. But then in practice, uh, first of all, in democratic societies, this will only happen in absolutely extreme circumstances and after a lengthy judiciary led process. Okay. So honestly, I don't think it will ever happen. In autocratic societies, again, it's possible, but in autocratic societies, so many other things can be done. You can be arrested for no reason. So I wouldn't worry about the fact that you cannot use your digital
Right.
currency. When the police can knock to your door, arrest you, put you in jail for no reason for 20 years
Right.
without ever giving you an explanation for that.
I
Just
hear you. Uh, do you think do you like cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, or do you think it's or do you think it should be central bank controlled for a more stable monetary value?
So here we need to, I would say, stop the religion wars, right? We had enough of them. Here we need to use our brains and not our stomach. So the story is that um, technology has been invented. And like every technology, it may have multiple uses. Some may be good, some may be bad. But it's about the users. Think about nuclear. Nuclear is effectively a very good source of energy, uh, probably less polluting than others, but can be used also to bomb the entire population. So it's a dual use, right? It's
Right.
about the use we want to do it. For digital assets, it's the same. A technology has been invented and it's not going to be they invented because we don't like it, right? So it's out there. Now, uh, once you start having digital assets, then I think there will be an ecosystem of digital assets. Um, some of them will be extremely speculative and volatile, and this is crypto. Some of them will be a bit more stable, but still issued by the private sector, and these will be the stable coins currently or the future. And some of them will be issued by the government or its own agent, which is the central bank. And these are the central bank digital currencies. And all these digital assets, by the way, together with those things that can be purchased with them, because now you can have tokenized, real estate, tokenized pieces of art, tokenized um, goods of all sorts. So in this ecosystem of digital assets, all these things will coexist. And like everything, it will have its own different use. You want to make an absolutely speculative move in the market, um, try to profit quickly from big swings. Okay, so for sure you're not going to use CBDCs. You're going to use some form of crypto assets. You want to have something extremely stable that is very good for transactions and secure payments, then it's your CBDC. Do you want to have commercially issued and oriented form of payment systems that has lots of services attached to it, where there is um, some point-based system or some insurance or God knows what else, then you're going to use a stable coin. So, but everybody will make the use of the different instruments that will be available. Of course, at some point, we need some regulation. We need some fence and so where to say this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is against consumer protection, this is to enhance consumer protection. So Everything in finance always evolves, always gets regulated, always becomes safer over time, and eventually accepted, right? We used to have checks. Who uses checks anymore? Nobody. Are they illegal? No. Are they allowed? Yes. Are they commonly used? No. Nobody used them, right? When credit cards were first issued, people were extremely skeptical because people were saying, "Oh, are you paying with what? A piece of plastic? Based on what? Where's my cash?" Right? And guess what? Today, everything happens with a credit card, and and now you put the credit card in another device, which is maybe a computer, to make a transactions totally digital on something that will be delivered to you God knows when. It is obvious that in this constant and continuous innovation, new forms of payments emerge, and so that's that's the nature of things.
Right on. I guess one question I have is probably kind of out there, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think with a terrorist and all these wars going on, it could be a real possibility. If we
Yeah.
get heavy into the digital currencies and say
Mhm.
like the power grid's attacked or something and the power gets shut off, then we have, I mean, obviously very serious problems outside of the money situation anyway, but
Yes.
how can we kind of feel safe about that, if you will?
I understand what you're saying. So with cash, you can use it at any point in time.
Right.
With any electronic device, if if we don't have electricity, we are a bit
Right.
in trouble. Uh, Again, that's not some. First of all, as you said, if power grids explode because of a terrorist attack or a war, I think we have lots of other problems.
Right.
First, second, right? Second, um, uh, the entire story is that we try to build systems that are resilient to those kind of events. Think about the internet. The internet was in fact developed for war type of situations. The way the internet protocol works is that the information is divided in thousands of micro elements that start going around the world and then reconnect on the other side of the world, having done each of them a different path almost instantaneously because um, uh, given our distances, the speed of light is so much faster. So um, and the idea was that if one of those routes is kind of interrupted because of a war, information will follow the available routes remaining. So same story would be more or less here, right? So for sure there would be methods to ensure that there's always some element of power available to allow the entire system, which is not, as we just said, money is everything. We need light for
Right.
everything, right? Energy for literally everything, right? Um, uh, a couple of additional points. First, for sure, there will be also offline abilities. So there will be possibilities of using electronic money even when we have no internet, even when we have no electricity, as long as, of course, the mobile phones uh, are alive. That seems like obvious. There will be an element of allowing potential offline transaction. Imagine, for example, when you are, I don't know, in a remote beach and somebody comes and want to sell you, I don't know, a lemonade, and of course there's no internet, whatever. It doesn't matter. You touch the phones, the transaction is completed, and as soon as at some point these two people reconnect to the grid, then the ledger uh, effectively updates. The second point is the following: if for any reason humanity cannot have a hold in equilibrium, so to speak, this level of technology because it prefers to self destroy itself with wars or terrorism or whatever, then we will return to much simpler technologies such as paper, which is a bit strange that we've been using paper for thousands of years, and still today we use paper as a main technology for cash transactions. This somehow reminds me the famous saying by Albert Einstein, who once said, "I don't know with which weapons we will fight World War III, but I know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and bones, such as destroyed everything."
Right.
So, right, we will
Yep.
return to the Stone Age, and hey, good luck for those who survived.
Yeah, I hear you. Uh, I guess I know you're a busy man, so we'll just ask one more question. But do you
Yes.
think America is getting very close to taking this issue serious, or are we still a little behind?
So, in terms of central bank, I think you're behind, and America will remain behind for some time by construction. The book actually opens with the statement by Donald Trump as a candidate that in New Hampshire, which by the way is the state of Bretton Woods, where the financial and monetary system of the post World War II kind of era started. I don't know if it was coincidental, whether he has amazingly smart advisor that chose that specific location, but he made that announcement with which the book starts, which is under my presidency, you will never have a central bank digital currency because we want to pump up the privacy element, whatever. We discussed that before. But I would say there has been an evolution in this because if we go back to the story of the digital asset environment, in which you had cryptos and stablecoins and CBDCs coexisting, um, in reality, you can take this sort of pyramid. At the bottom, there are CBDCs as the foundation of trust. Then you have stable coins, and then you have cryptos. And on top, in terms of volatility and in terms of how speculative they are, uh, you know, this pyramid of digital assets can be taken from the bottom or from the top. So the Europeans and the Chinese have chosen a state-based approach. So they started from the bottom, which is CBDCs, the central bank digital currency. The Americans typically are more market-oriented, more market-based. So they have started from the top, so crypto, a stablecoin. So I think eventually each jurisdiction will follow what is more natural to them, but eventually we will meet in the middle where somebody will have more CBDCs than stablecoins, somebody will more crypto than stablecoins, somebody will have more crypto than CBDCs, and vice versa. But eventually, everybody will have a portion of each of them in different proportions. So the US has chosen probably the approach that is um, more natural for them, which is the market-based approach. So initially cryptos and stablecoins, and eventually they will realize that without the CBDC, the system doesn't work because you need some public safe asset in people's digital wallets to guarantee the element of trust that will be soon needed because history is full of bull markets, but also it's full of crashes when things go wrong. And in that case, then guess what? You buy the public good. So think about you want to buy the S&P 500 when you feel speculative, right? You do it,
Right.
and you have a massive bull run. Then it goes down because inevitably goes down. It's a reversal. It's obviously always happens that. And what do? You buy the treasuries as a form of hedging. And eventually, after a while, when things are better, you leave the treasury, go back to the speculative assets. So exactly the same thing will happen in the digital asset space. Nothing new. It's just the technology that is slightly different.
Right on. I appreciate you coming on today and talking
No
about
problem.
digital currencies in your book. I hope people check it out. I've personally listened to it twice on Audible. It's pretty good. So,
Thank you very much. Twice is a record.
right on. Well, we'll go for three because I'm still trying to understand it all. But I do appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
And
Thank you for interviewing me.
right on.
Okay, have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Yeah, bye bye.